Hello, 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 Steve Fletcher here, and welcome to this little video log. This is actually my first video log of the new year. This is January 2023, so if you're watching me at some point in the distant future, then hello from the past. Please take a moment to like my video, make a nice little comment, subscribe to my page, make me feel all warm and fuzzy. You can find the links to my website and everything down there in the description, or if you're watching this on your television or on your desktop, you've got your phone handy, you can scan this code here to find more information. Alright, so what we're going to do today, we're going to start the new year as I mean to go on with some musical awesomeness. And anybody that knows me knows that I am a colossal Pink Floyd fan. I say it a lot that I listen to them every day, and it is genuinely true. There's not many days go by without me listening to Pink Floyd in one way or another. So what I thought I would do, first I'm going to get rid of my guitar. There, not going to need that. What I'm going to do, what I thought I would do for this first video of the new year is a countdown of my personal order. I need to work on this title. Countdown of the Pink Floyd albums in my personal favourite order. A few little addendums to make note of that. I am only considering the studio albums when I get into this list. So if it's live in any way, I'm not including it, okay? So if anyone goes, "Oh, yes, you forgot to listen Pulse and you forgot the live album of UMMAGUMMA," you've not listened to what I just said. The second thing I want to say is, of course, my list is my list. It's purely subjective. I'm sure you've got your own list, and I would be very, very happy to hear from you, to hear your list. But if you want to put a little comment down there going, "Oh, you douchebag," then, you know, those sorts of comments won't be very, very well received. But, you know, that's what the internet is for you to disagree. But there we go. Right, let's crack on with it. So, yeah, here we have a stack of vinyl awesomeness. Yes, I'm very proud to say that I do have, I'm probably giving you a bit of a spoiler by showing you the back here, is I do have all the Pink Floyd albums on vinyl. The awesomeness of vinyl is something I'm going to discuss in later blogs. I'm going to do a monthly vinyl that I've bought vlog, which when I've done it, I'll put the link to it right there in the corner. So let's get on with it, shall we? First thing we have here is UMMAGUMMA. Yeah, and again, I just want to remind you that I'm not talking about the live disc here. I am talking about the studio disc here. It does have a few small glimmers of musical wonder on the studio album of UMMAGUMMA, but largely it's just crap. Quite frankly, it's an album that you listen to, and even me as a progressive music aficionado, you listen to this and there's stuff on there that you think, how has a record company heard this and gone, yeah, we'll release that, no problem guys, sounds good? Because no, it's just dreadful, and I think it's pretty obvious that the band didn't think much of it either, because they didn't run this experiment of each band member getting a bit of a vinyl to do her own little solo project. No. Okay, the next thing I'm talking about, this is the More soundtrack. This has gone sort of down on the bottom of my list purely because I don't really listen to it very much. Again, there's a few little good things in there. Green is the colour is quite nice. I quite like the dramatic theme and stuff like that. There's a few little glimmers on here. But again, nothing that particularly grabs me as sort of what I would say is classic Floyd. It did come to life, some of this stuff did come to life a little bit more when Nick Mason's SAUCERFUL of Secrets did their tour. They did a few songs off this album, but generally speaking, it's a pass. And then again, this is getting more. This is, you know, I've said for the last couple of albums, there's a few little glimmers of some good stuff on there, and this is getting more into that area of more and more good stuff. It's just that I just don't listen to it very much. So this is a SAUCERFUL of Secrets. This is the second Pink Floyd album, the transitional album between Sid leaving, Gilmour joining. And again, you've got some really good stuff on here, and what would go on to be some classic Floyd stuff, which I do really, really love. So you've got things like Set the Control for the Heart of the Sun and A Saucer Full of Secrets and stuff like that. Let There Be More Light, again, is another great track, which, again, comes to life on the Nick Mason Saucer Full of Secrets live album. So I do like it. It just doesn't really get played very often. And ditto, with this might seem sacrilege to some people, but the debut album, I like this album. I do really, really like it. But again, it just doesn't get listened to very often. There's some classics on here. I mean, Astronomy Domine has been a Pink Floyd classic for many years. I mean, Gilmour trots it out quite regularly on his live shows. It was on the Pulse live album, which is my favourite of all Pink Floyd live albums, but we'll get to that later on. You've got stuff like Lucifer Sam on this album, which again is great. Interstellar Overdrive, oh my god, what a riff. Stuff that is really, really good. But again, there is some stuff on there that is a little bit dated, and again, I just don't listen to it as much, but I do like it, and it was quite hard putting this one so low down in my list. What are you going to do? So this is sort of this strange little album in between MEDDLE and Dark Side of the Moon. This is the Obscured by Clouds album, and it's got some really nice stuff on there. I mean, it's a soundtrack album, basically, that Floyd did in between MEDDLE and Dark Side of the Moon. Some of its stuff is really, really good, and you've got things like What's the Deal, which is a really, really good song, and Gilmour resurrected it in his 2006 World Tour. I love the title track. I love things like When You're In as well. Again, Nick Mason has really done a good job with this material, and I really, really like it. My absolute favourite, strangely, is this very slight, quiet instrumental track called Absolutely Curtains, which is the last song on there. It's this lovely little delicate keyboardy led thing. It's great. You've also got stuff like Burning Bridges as well. It's a really good album, actually, and not thought of very much, because it's a very quick, easily accessible album, sort of just songs on it, really. Not a lot of people go for this one, but I like it. So a lot was said about this bad boy. People are very quick to sort of deride it. It's not their best album, and it is in sort of the middle of my list. I think it's worth buying alone for It's What We Do, which is an absolutely wonderful piece of music and got some fabulous trading parts with Gilmour and Wright. It's got some fantastic guitar playing from Gilmour, obviously. There's some stuff on there that I think sounds very much like a bad iPod shuffle. Some of the bits that go through don't really connect very well for me, but that's the way it is. And I also think Louder Than Words is a really naff last song for the last Pink Floyd album, when you could have probably finished with Surfacing and left it there. And people generally moan about it because it's largely, or mostly, completely made up from outtakes of the Division Bell album sessions, and people go, oh, well, what are they just doing that for? And I agree, it probably would have been better to include this as a bonus disc, as part of a Division Bell box set, but they didn't. They released it as an album. And Pink Floyd have got a history, anyone who knows Pink Floyd have got a history of recycling old material. The Final Cut album was made from excerpts from The Wall that didn't make it onto The Wall. Us and Them from Dark Side of the Moon was a piece that was originally written for the More soundtrack. So, animals, you've got dogs and sheep, which were raving and drooling and got a bit crazy, which were discarded from the Wish You Were Here sessions. So Floyd have got this history of reusing material, so that never was an issue for me. It's good. It's not worth it. Not worthwhile to be the last Pink Floyd album, though. Okay, we're now into Momentary Lapse of Reason. And again, this one is another one which it does get its detractors. I do not, and I will not, get into the whole Waters versus Gilmour debate. It's totally boneheaded. It's been nearly 40 years since Waters left Pink Floyd. If you are still yet to... I said I wasn't going to get into it. If you are still of this opinion that there's some merit in this what happened after Waters versus what happened with Waters argument, then get a life, quite frankly. But anyway, Some great stuff on this. And this is sort of the album, and the Delicate Sound of Thunder album were the albums that were out when I was first getting into Pink Floyd. So I do really have a big soft spot for this album. And as a guitar player, this stuff, this material and the Division Bell material was what I was listening to most when I was getting into Pink Floyd, and when I was learning how to play guitar and learning how to play Pink Floyd. This and the Division Bell were the albums that I was going to. So I've got a lot of, a lot of time for those albums. So things like On the Turning Away, Sorrow, Learning to Fly, they're absolute Pink Floyd classics. The one that I really love most out of this, which is a kind of deep cut forgotten gem, is Yet Another Movie. In particular, on the Delicate Sound of Thunder record, Yet Another Movie is a great song, and it is actually my favourite from this album. Right, Atom Heart Mother. I kind of love and loathe this album, actually. I love the title track. Pink Floyd have gone on record many times saying that they're really embarrassed by this, they don't like it, they don't think it was very good, it's a failed experiment. I don't agree with any of that. I think the title track is a great track, and I will listen to it till the cows come home. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. It does have one major drawback, though, this album, in the track Alan's Psychedelic Breakfast, which is just this weird collage of noises, when they could have put the track Embryo on here. And if you listen to the John Peel sessions from, I think it's September 1971, the version of Embryo that is on there would have been probably the version that would have ended up on here. It's absolutely amazing, and it's a travesty that it's not on here, boys. Alright, next we're getting into the big guns now. Of course, we're going to go with the MEDDLE album. Let's look at that whole sleeve, that ear there. There it is. I hope you can see all that there. But yeah, the MEDDLE album, and there's all the boys there. The last time that the four-man Floyd would appear photographed on a record, just FYI. Yeah, I love this album. What's not to love about this album? It's got Echoes on it, for crying out loud. It's got One of These Days on it, which is a lovely, brilliant song on it. It's also got Fearless on it as well, which is a great song. It's a great one for guitarists because it's in open G, which is not something you got very often with Floyd. There's some alternative tunings, but there you go. So here it is, MEDDLE. Absolutely great album. What's not to love, quite frankly. Right, this one, Upside Down. Try that again. Yeah, The Wall. It's obviously a brilliant album, a brilliant concept. I do have to be in the mood for it, though. But when I am in the mood for it, I can seriously immerse myself in the whole thing. It's a brilliant concept album. It's one of my favourite concept albums, up there with Quadrophenia and The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. It's an absolutely great concept album. It's a great album. It's got some brilliant material on it. Obviously, Comfortably Numb is on there. Another Brick in the Wall's on there. Run Like Hell. Some concert staples are on there. My big beef with the whole Wall era is that the live shows have never been properly represented as a live. We had the live album, Is There Anybody Out There, which is a lovely audio representation of those amazingly visual concerts. Where is the concert footage, boys? Where is it? It's in the archive. It's there. We know it's there. It's on YouTube. Get it cleaned up. Get it released. So a strange one here is that The Wall comes before the final cut. For me, the final cut, I would prefer to listen to the final cut over The Wall. There's something about this album that it's incredibly beautiful. Obviously, it's the sound of a band breaking up. It's a very Roger-led album, but it's worth it alone for some of the most beautiful guitar playing that Gilmour has ever put on a record. His playing on this, he only gets sort of 3 major guitar solos on these, but my God, it makes you weep. It's at his lyrical best. It's almost like he was like, well, if you're not going to let me write any songs, I'm going to write the best goddamn solos that you've ever had. And yeah, he really does deliver. So I do love this album. It's absolutely beautiful. Right, so getting close to the end now. Are we in the top 5? Oh, we've done the top 5. So the final cut was album 5, so we're in the big main countdown now. So number 4, this is the only one I've not got a proper vinyl for. I've got it on picture disc, but I've not got a proper vinyl sleeve, and I need to sort that out. But it is The Division Bell. Again, this is the reason this one's so high up in my list, is because I just hold it in great esteem, because when I was, as I said when I was doing the Momentary Lapse of Reason, this and Momentary Lapse of Reason are the albums that I listened to the most when I was a kid, because I was learning to play guitar, I was learning to love Pink Floyd, so these records were on pretty much solidly. I love the Pulse tour, it's my favourite tour of Pink Floyd, and I love that live album. I hate it as well for different reasons, which I'll get to on my live Pink Floyd list. But yeah, there's some great stuff on this. The material on this does come alive more on Pulse, I think. So songs like What Do You Want From Me, Great Day for Freedom, Coming Back to Life, Keep Talking, all of that stuff. I think it is a little bit better on, well, it's a lot better on Pulse, but nevertheless, and of course, High Hopes, worth it for that song alone. But yeah, this album is up there, number 4 on my list. So number 3 on my list, Dark Side of the Moon. I could wax lyrical about Dark Side of the Moon forever. It is quite possibly the greatest concept album ever made. Yes, I could very easily go into a half-an-hour rant about why I think that is. I do think that when they did the documentary, the making of classic albums, making of documentary, the Rolling Stone editor, I think, summed it up best by saying it is the ultimate concept album, because it has a definite theme, it is about a thing, and all the songs individually are about a thing. However, it's all written in such a way that it doesn't take away any of your ability to imagine different things. So for that reason, it's a fantastic achievement. It's only number 3 on my list, simply because it's not my personal favourite, but it is quite possibly the greatest album ever made. Dark Side of the Moon, number 3. There you go. Right, so Wish You Were Here is my number 2 album. I actually did a mashup when I was a kid between this and Dogs and Sheep, which was because that was sort of the whole era put together, because Dogs and Sheep were written when all of this material was written. But this, again, it's an absolutely wonderful album. As you can see, I've managed to lay my hands on a vinyl which has still got the original black shrink wrap on it. It's not in very good condition. You can see the sleeve there is very chewed up. But I'm quite pleased that I found one with the original shrink wrapping on there. But it is an absolutely wonderful album. Gilmour, I've got to look at these things from a guitar playing point of view, because that's what I am. Gilmour's absolutely on fire. It's absolutely wonderful. It's brilliant. The only thing that I kind of never really gel with this is the title track. I've never really, same with Money on Dark Side of the Moon, is I've never really fully connected with them. They're always a bit, yeah, they're okay, they're there. But the rest of it is absolutely brilliant. Well done, boys. You were really working nicely together on this one, and you've done a brilliant job. So, number 1, you probably guessed it. It is my all-time favourite Pink Floyd album. It has been my all-time favourite Pink Floyd album for many, many years, and it is, dun dun dun, yeah, it's Animals. It doesn't get the recognition it deserves in Pink Floyd history. It's an incredibly important album. It's just had this major remix reissue thing. I'm going to get that. Yep, here it is. This major Animals reissue. So there they are, front to back to back, side to side. Yeah, it's a wonderful album. It contains what I consider to be some of Gilmour's best soloing. I've always said it for a long time. You can keep Comfortably Numb. I'll have dogs, quite frankly. It's brilliant. I absolutely love it. It's got some great stuff in there. The remix is brilliant. I can't believe how good this is, quite frankly. I've probably said quite frankly about 1,000 times on this video, but who cares? Yeah, it's absolutely wonderful, and I encourage anyone to buy it. It's a strange one. It does annoy me that this doesn't get the credit it deserves, because it's, like I say, it's a very important album in the history of Pink Floyd. Dogs and Sheep were written at the same time as pretty much all of this material. So everyone holds this album in such high regard, including Pink Floyd hold this album in such high regard, and yet this one seems to get forgotten about. It's also on this tour that, I mean, obviously we all know Floyd history, but on this tour is where Roger pretty much lost it, got very shouty and very sweary, and kind of acted a little bit like a posh, spoiled, entitled schoolboy a little bit, but sort of got very angry with his audiences, spat at a fan, and it sowed the seeds for what would become The Wall, which is another hugely important album in Pink Floyd terms. I think the reason this one doesn't get the credit it deserves is because it's been largely ignored by Pink Floyd themselves. You know, The Wall came out straight after it, and we had the whole Wall album, which only performed tracks from The Wall. Roger then left. We didn't get a tour from the final cut. Roger then left. We got the Momentary Lapse of Reason. They didn't perform anything on that album, on that tour from this album. They didn't perform anything from this album on the Division Bell tour. So it's just largely kind of got a little bit forgotten about. But it's a shame. It is my all-time favourite Pink Floyd album. Go out and listen to it. And there you go. So thanks very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed my little list. Please feel free to send me your little lists and stuff. Don't get too shouty about it. You know, it's all an opinion. We've all got one. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you on the other side. Bye-bye.